there was the WWE investors call, the conference call where they tell everybody how they're doing and pep all the stockholders up on the unlimited future that the company has and etc. Revealed a little bit this week about what Vince McMahon thinks about AEW and situation possibly with some of his talent going to work for him. And Brian, it sounded remarkably similar to something that I have been saying or said several weeks ago and have said on a couple of different occasions. Did it to you?
It sounded like what he was saying publicly is like what you said he was probably thinking, yes.
Well, what he said publicly was that AEW is not competition. They don't consider them competition, which he said that about everybody, except for WCW in the late 90s, which was competition. But he said that about, so that's nothing groundbreaking, but I liked the closing comment when the guy had asked, well, AEW is investing heavily in talent, and should you be doing that? Or I forget exactly how it was phrased, but should you be investing heavily in talent also? Or you know, do you think that that's something you should be doing? Should you be running with what you've got or whatever? And Vince came out and basically said, and you could kind of tell he was rolling his, I can detect, even with Vince's voice being older and not as quite as commanding as it used to, I can still tell when he's getting his eye rolling expression verbally. He was talking about them investing heavily in talent. He said, maybe we can help them out with that a little bit. I'm not surprised he says they're not competition, because let's face it, in the global scheme of things, they're not competition. They're an annoyance on television, but it's not like a fight for existence like WCW under Turner in 98 or 97 or 98 was. But he wouldn't have said that if he wasn't happy that they're going out and breaking the bank for everybody they can sign, especially if he's done with them. Now, yes, I understand people. Well, he always says nobody else is competition, usually because it's true. But how did that strike you? And he's, well, we can help them with their talent investments.
I mean, in a sense, it struck me the way you're saying it, but in another sense, it struck me as trying to publicly say that AEW is no threat whatsoever. I've been very vocal about my problems with AEW's booking and various issues, but as a business, they've got a lot of momentum. Look at the ticket sales just the last few days. There's a lot going on. For Vince to just completely dismiss them like that and then say what he said about talent, I don't know. I mean, the other thing you got to remember is it's one thing if your strategy is, I'm going to dump all my talent on this person, and they're going to invest so much money in them, they're not going to be able to do anything. That doesn't work when it's a kid with no board of directors who has unlimited capital. If his dad's attitude is really, I'm going to give you your inheritance now or a portion of it, and just go have fun and do what you're doing. And beyond the video game division, he is making a profit. I mean, he's doing something right with that. So I think Vince's strategy with AEW has been wrong the whole time, maybe. But I understand why publicly he would try to completely dismiss them at a time where they're right now, I mean, they've never had more momentum than they have right now, pizza incident or not.
Which we'll cover later on with our Domino's Pizza sponsored review of AEW. But well, now you say his way of dealing with them has been wrong all along. Does that mean that he should not then have originally given guys more money to probably than he ever would have given them to stay? Does that count in being wrong also until he saw what he was dealing with and then said, well, we'll probably stop doing that?
Well, look at the guys that were offered that big money to stay. Would any of them have hurt WWE to leave? Would any of them have greatly helped AEW when AEW was first starting? And now that we know what would happen to AEW several months after a TV show would start due to the pandemic and how everything really changed. Who? Gallows and Anderson? They ended up there anyway. If they were really offered all that money back then and Tony Khan got him for less now, he got a better deal out of the whole thing. But Vince, the money they were offering them to keep them like they were a game changer was ridiculous. It really was.
But they were offering everyone money to stay
I'm using them as an example, and I think it was stupid. I mean, I think it's one thing if it is a Bryan Danielson or a Daniel Bryan. I think it's one thing if it is a Cena, Randy Orton, who ended up re-signing for 5 years. I believe. I could be wrong. That's one thing. But when they were offering all this money to these guys that are not difference makers, that's when it was like, what are you doing?
Well, that's why they quit doing it.
Yeah, well, they quit doing it when they realized it didn't make a difference, and they also blew it with NXT against them. Either don't run against them or go full bore against them. They were wishy-washy.
Yeah, they should have brought more talent from the other two shows across to get some of those guys established in the people's eyes, and they didn't do that. They just let the C team do their thing, which actually does that show something that the C team with only a couple of stars being brought back, Finn Balor, just doing their thing without hot-shotting, come within a couple 100,000 viewers of the other program doing everything they possibly can. Maybe that's what they wanted to see. I don't know. We shall find out. It appears that Vince is willing to send some more people over to Tony, especially if he's finished with him.
Hey, if that's Vince's attitude with a Big Show or a Mark Henry or even a Christian, I can understand it. If that's his attitude with an Aleister Black, then his attitude's wrong.
You know, that guy,
and I'm using him as an example for other guys.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
But he may get over until they do something stupid with him. He seems to have the intensity, and he's a very weird looking chap.
And he was there for a long time, and he had a great look, and he did some cool things in the ring, and for whatever reason with me, it didn't connect. And I think a lot of it was the way he was used. We haven't even seen him work a match yet. I'm more interested in him now than I've ever been in him before. But I mean, there's an example. Vince gave up this talent. They picked him up. You know, FTR, time will tell in the long run what that move was. But I don't know.
That move was to hide the people that embarrass the Young Bucks and show the world that they don't know what they're doing. That's the only thing that could have been.
I mean, again,
bring them in, have the match, boom, we're done. No rematches, no program, no series between the two greatest teams in the world. Just let's get that win, and then you can wrestle on TV in another few months.
And again, to my philosophy that Tony doesn't have anything to worry about in terms of budget, if it's a game of chicken to see who's going to raise the salaries of wrestlers, Tony does have the capabilities to just say, I'll hire whoever. And then Vince is going to have to deal with that. I mean, it is a dangerous game of chicken if Vince wants to say that, they could have whatever talent, it doesn't matter. Vince can't create stars like he used to.
Well, but do you think that he's got everybody that he gives a shit about locked up for the next couple of years long enough that he thinks, well, this whole thing has got to blow up sooner or later?
Well, we haven't heard about a 5-year deal. I'm not saying they haven't been signed recently. We haven't heard about a renewal that I could think of in the last several months. Randy Orton was, 2 years ago, so he would still have 3 years left on his contract. Other guys probably in that range, if they re-signed at that point in time. It will all be very interesting how it all plays out. But, if you want to criticize AEW and their talent, that's one thing. But when you're Vince McMahon doing it, and I've seen your TV in the last couple of years.
He ain't doing himself any favors, is he?
Yeah, you're not exactly a wizard anymore, buddy.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.